Welcome. Today's session is when algorithms rewrite the story: ethics, misinformation, and genetic engineering. So before we begin, I need to introduce my co-presenter for today. This is Professor Octavius P. Inkwell. He's an octopus. He wears a monocle. He's got a top hat. But he has very strong opinions about ethics and absolutely no opinions about being questioned. So we'll be doing this interview style today because it turns out that when you're talking about algorithms, ethics, and genetic engineering, having a monocled octopus ask the questions somehow makes the room a lot calmer.
Let's start simple. Why did a single comment about seeds turn into a viral moral panic?
Oh, great question. Because we live in an era where scientific conversations and conspiracy theories go through the exact same digital pipeline. There's no separate lane for nuance. There's no protected bike lane for context. Everything gets thrown into the same algorithmic blender and hit with maximum engagement. In this case, Bill Gates made a fairly standard comment about synthetic biology, about programming biological systems to improve agriculture output. If you work anywhere near this science, that's not radical. It's just a Tuesday. But once that hit social media, the meaning of that clip changed forever. Not because the science changed, not because new facts emerged. The meaning changed because the algorithm decided what version of the story was most emotionally profitable. And shockingly, it was not the calm or the accurate one.
So are people just misunderstanding the science?
That's the easy explanation, but it's also the wrong one. I mean, people don't suddenly lose their intelligence when they open an app. What actually happens is that algorithms take that complex material and they reward the most emotionally legible interpretation. Fear is very legible. Nuance is not. The Gates clip didn't spread because it explained genetic engineering well. It spread because it can be framed as someone powerful is playing God. And that narrative requires zero background knowledge and delivers instant emotional payoff. So this isn't a literacy problem. It's a systems design problem. He's nodding. This is his serious nod.
You keep saying algorithms aren't neutral. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, algorithms are not referees. They're editors with caffeine addictions. They decide what gets seen, what gets repeated, and what quietly disappears into the digital void. And they don't make those decisions based on truth or expertise. They make them based on engagement. So if two stories, a version of each exists, one accurate and boring, and one misleading and emotionally charged, the system will reliably promote the second one. And not because it's malicious, it's because it works. So when people say the platform didn't do anything wrong, it just showed people what they wanted. What they're really saying is that the platform trained people on what to want. And that should terrify everyone. Quick show of hands, no judgment. How many of you have ever clicked on something online and thought, I know this is probably nonsense, but I need to see where this is going? Right. Yeah. Same. And that impulse is not a personal failure. It's a predictable human response. The algorithms are extremely good at exploiting. And Professor Inkwell assures me that he's never clicked on clickbait, but I think we all know that he's lying.
Why did genetic engineering make this more serious than other misinformation topics?
Because the stakes are real and immediate. Genetic engineering affects food security, climate resilience, medicine, public health. And these are not abstract future technologies. They're tools we're using right now, actively deciding whether to fund, whether to regulate, and whether to deploy. And public perception matters. If people believe genetic engineering is inherently dangerous or part of some secret agenda, policy now follows fear. Research slows and adoption stalls. And the people who suffer are almost never the ones who are posting these viral videos. They're the ones who could have benefited from the technology. So this isn't about defending a billionaire or claiming that science is flawless. It's really about public understanding is shaped by the evidence or by whatever scares people fastest.
So how do we evaluate this ethically?
Well, this is where philosophy stops being theoretical and starts being useful. So I'm using utilitarian ethics, and I chose it very intentionally. Utilitarianism asks a simple question. What produces the greatest overall good and the least harm? Not what sounds morally oppressive, not what feels pure. what actually happens when we choose one path over another. And when you apply that lens to an algorithmic misinformation, the answer becomes uncomfortable but very clear.
What happens if the platforms do nothing?
Well, we already know. Public trust in science erodes, conspiracy narratives fill the vacuum, policy debates become emotional instead of evidence-based, research funding gets politicized, and scientists become targets. We've watched this happen with vaccines. We've watched this happen with climate science. Genetic engineering is not special, it's just what's next. So from a utilitarian perspective, inaction is not neutral. It's an ethical choice with predictable consequences.
Why does fear dominate these conversations so reliably?
Because fear is cognitively cheap and algorithmically profitable. Fear doesn't ask you to understand something, it asks you to react. And our brains are very good at reacting. Algorithms have found how to exploit that instinct beautifully. A calm explanation of genetic engineering takes time. It takes effort. A scary implication lands instantly. And when human cognition and engagement-driven systems align, facts lose the race every single time, unless something is actively slowing that process down.
Why not just educate people better?
I love education. I believe in education. I'm extremely pro-education. But just educate the people is not a solution to a system-level problem. Education works when people have time, context, and motivation. But algorithms remove all three. They deliver information at a speed that's stripped of nuance and optimized for reaction. So telling people to calmly research complex science inside of an engagement machine is like asking someone to read a textbook while riding a roller coaster. It's not a failure of intelligence. It's a mismatch between human learning and machine amplification.
So what would an ethical intervention actually look like?
It looks boring. And that's a compliment. It means that there's friction, that there's now context, and we've slowed the spread of this information. Downranking extraordinary claims without evidence, adding context before resharing, reducing algorithmic boosts in areas where misinformation causes outsized harm. None of this removes free speech. It just refuses to weaponize it. These tools, they already exist. Platforms just deploy them more aggressively for brand safety than for public understanding. And that's not a technical limitation. That's a values decision.
Final question. Is this censorship?
No! You have the right to free speech, but it doesn't guarantee reach. You have the right to speak. You do not have the right to an algorithmic megaphone. Platforms already shape speech constantly. The question isn't whether they influence discourse, it's whether they'll take responsibility for the consequences. Algorithms don't just reflect society, they train it. When systems reward fear, fear becomes the dominant lens which we interpret science, technology, and even each other. Utilitarian ethics asks us to look at outcomes and not intentions. And if the outcome of an unchecked algorithmic amplification is confusion, distrust, and harm, even a monocled octopus in a top hat can grasp that. So I think the rest of us can manage. Thank you. So we have a little bit more time, so I'm going to take some audience questions. Yes, Hugh.
So, aren't platforms just responding to what people want?
Well, they're responding to what people click, and that's not really the same thing. If I leave a plate of cookies next to a stack of tax forms, it doesn't mean that society prefers cookies to functioning governments. It just means that sugar is easier. Platforms shape demand as much as they respond to it. So when you repeatedly amplify fear and outrage, you're training people to expect, and you're rewarding that fear and outrage. So that's not neutrality, right? That's conditioning. Thank you. Yeah, you, over here.
Who decides what counts as misinformation?
Wow, now that is the right question. And it's not why I'm arguing for absolute truth policing. We already know how to handle this in practice. We focus on claims with measurable harm, not opinions, not values, claims about vaccines, gene editing, elections, or public health that contradict established evidence and spread rapidly. This isn't about deciding what people must believe. It's about deciding what algorithms should aggressively amplify. And those are two very different powers. Professor Inkwell insists this distinction is about everything, and he's correct, but he's also unfortunately a little smug about it. All right. Yes, you, over here.
Doesn't this just give tech companies too much power?
Well, they already have that power, don't they? So the real question is whether they'll use it responsibly or pretend that it doesn't exist at all. So saying platforms should intervene or shouldn't intervene, it doesn't remove power. It just removes the accountability to those platforms. Ethical design is not about creating new authority. It's about acknowledging existing influence and reducing harm. Ignoring power does not make it disappear. It just makes it look less visible. Yeah, you in the back.
Could this backfire and increase distrust?
Well, I mean, only if it's done badly. But I think that's literally true of like everything. So transparency matters, clear standards matter, context matters. So when people understand why content is slowed down instead of being silently buried, trust actually improves. What increases distrust is pretending nothing is happening while quietly optimizing for outrage. Silence erodes credibility faster than an honest explanation every time. Yeah, we got room for a couple more. Go ahead.
What can individuals actually do about this?
Well, first, we all need to forgive ourselves for being human. You're not broken because you clicked something wild at 11 p.m. Second, we need to slow the systems where you can. So pause before resharing. Check whether something is designed to inform or provoke, and curate your own inputs. And third, and this really, really matters here, stop treating algorithmic outcomes as collective wisdom. Trending is not truth. Viral is not verified. Professor Inkwell recommends touching grass, but I recommend touching fewer share buttons. Yeah, you.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
So I guess I would say that I'm cautiously optimistic, which is really the only responsible flavor of optimism. I mean, we're still really early in understanding the societal effects of algorithmic systems. The fact that we're even having this conversation is progress. We're watching it shape our children, we're watching it shape our parents, and we're watching it shape our peers. Ethics always lags behind technology. The goal is not ever perfection, it's course correction. So if an octopus and a monocle can get people to listen to this nuanced ethics argument, I think we'll be okay. So that's all the time that we have for today. I really appreciate you guys coming, and thank you so much, Professor Inkwell, for having me. I hope I can be back next week so we can talk more. Bye.